what does salt, bubble wrap, a sponge, tissue paper and a paintbrush have in common? They can all create some beautiful textures in your watercolour flowers. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 simple beginner-friendly techniques that will add depth, interest and unique effects to your floral paintings. Let's get started. So just to begin, I've sketched out 5 simple flowers using a waterproof pen, and I'm using 100% cotton bow hung paper. But don't worry if you have something different, just use what you have. And also, as you can see, I've sped up the sketching process here just to keep things moving. But there is a slower version in last week's video, which is a blending technique. So you can also slow this video down as well in the YouTube settings. I'll pop last week's video in the description box for you. The first texture I'm trying is salt. Now, I've seen loads of watercolour tutorials rave about this technique, but believe it or not, I've never actually tried it myself. So we're learning together which could go brilliantly or not. I'm just using ordinary table salt. This packet was just from a takeaway and you only need a small pinch, so you don't need loads. The trick as well is to wait until the paint has started to dry off slightly. If the paper is soaking wet, the salt will dissolve, but if it is too dry, it really won't do much at all. So we've got to get the timing right. But let's find out ourselves. So as you can see here, all I'm doing is I'm using some Kuretake Gangsai Tambi paints as well. This one is just quite simply called red. And I'm just using no fancy technique at all, just literally popping the paints down. I've used mainly a little bit of wet on wet. I've used a little bit directly from the pan as well. So I will just speed this bit up slightly because I really want you to see the salt effect. I've also varied the paint a little bit as well. So on the last petal that I paint, I've gone in quite dark, quite thick with the paint colour and not too much water on that, just to see what actually happens when you put down thicker paint and not too much water. Okay, here goes. Here's the salt. Right, let me just pop a little bit onto my hand. Oh, you actually get quite a bit in there. That looks like loads. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm literally just putting on a very small little bit. I'm so sorry my hand is in the way with the angle of the camera, but I'm actually getting salt everywhere. It's going all over the place. Okay, I've just put a little sprinkle on each petal and we'll just leave that, wait and see what happens. I've actually got salt everywhere. Okay, never mind. Okay. Let's get on with the second one. Let me write down salt. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Let me go over it again. And then we know what we've done with that. But let's wait and see what happens with that. So the second one is some bubble wrap. This is very popular with packaging. You can also try this with some plain plastic as well. So I've decided I'm going to cut the bubble wrap roughly to the size of the shape of the petal. And also, just in case you haven't guessed already, I haven't used bubble wrap or plastic to practice with watercolour painting either. So this is also an experiment. I don't know why I'm getting it to the exact shape and size. It's not going to be exact. It doesn't have to be exact. Just use this roughly. I'm using cerulean blue. I don't know if I've said that right or wrong. Please correct me. I'm on TikTok and I think you can now leave voice notes. If you want to leave me a message by voice note, I don't know if you can do that as a viewer. Let me know. I'm painting bubble side up. So this is the poppy bit up. And then I'm going to, when I put it down on the petal, I'm hoping the circular shapes come up on the petal. That's what I'm imagining in my head right now anyway. We'll see if that happens. So I've painted this cerulean blue on here, again from the Kuretake Gangsai Tambi, and I'm going to stick this down like so. Again, like I say, this is all just a test, all just practice. This could be perfect or not. So with this petal, I'm doing it the other way. So I'm putting the paint on first and then sticking the plastic down to see if that makes the same sort of effect. So we'll see how that happens. So I'm just painting this bit here, and then I went and got my plastic bit and put that on the top with the poppy bit down. I hope that makes sense. Poppy bit. And then the same again for that. I'm going to leave that to dry before taking the plastic off. With this last one, I did a similar sort of thing, but this time it's just the plastic bit down, so not the poppy bit. Oh, also what I did was I added some variation to this. So I'm just popping in a little bit of that red again, just to give it a different colour, a different look. We will come back to that. The next one we have is number 3, the sponge effect. I'm going to be really honest, I didn't get on with the sponge effect at all. I don't know if I did something wrong. There must be something wrong with me, because how can you get a sponge painting effect wrong? Or it just didn't look good. But anyway, you let me know what you think when you've seen all of this. So this time I've put some paint down first, and then to get a spongy effect, I used a sponge here, as you can see me do. I don't think it did anything apart from shake the camera so much. Let me try it a different way. I put paint onto the sponge, added some water, and then tried to get a spongy effect as well. I think here maybe I have got too much water, too much paint. It just doesn't look like it's really doing anything, or at least it's not adding any sort of effect that's totally different from a brush. So for the third petal, I decided to add a bit of water and a bit of colour onto the petal first, and then dab it with a sponge and see if that makes a difference. It didn't make a difference. So I tried the other side of the sponge, and I tried dipping that in to the red this time, and then I've added some splodges into the petals. I did not get on with the sponge. Please tell me if you've done this before with a sponge. What on earth did I do wrong? Oh, there's a bit of texture on that last petal. Moving very quickly on, number 4, the tissue. Technically, this is a napkin, also from a takeaway, a fast food place. Open it up, scrunch it up, and then first of all, I'm going to put some colour onto one of the petals. I'm back on the red colour now as well. I'm varying this flower as well. So the next petal, I've just not put in too much pigment, just kept it a little bit watery. And I'm adding in some blue to make it look like it's blended quite nicely as well. Just to touch on that blended technique as well, this is a follow-on from the last video that I did, so definitely have a look at that, and that'll give you a bit more insight into some blending watercolour techniques, which are quite useful if you are a beginner as well. So now that I've done this one, I'm just going to take a bit of that tissue. I started with pressing it down, and it was more like the lifting effect for this, which is again not a problem. And then for this first petal that I did here, I'm going to pop down some tissue like I did with the plastic, and let's just see what effect that creates when that's dried. On to the last one, which is the dry brush effect, number 5. I've done this because if you don't want to use any of your materials and you want to stick with using a brush, then this is a really good effect. It's called a dry brush because you're not using too much water at all. It's a bit tricky to get it right because it feels really weird when you do this for the first time, because you're not using a lot of water at all, and you need the water to blend the colour and make the colour move around. So it almost feels a bit alien, popping this down without too much water, and also it feels like you're going to ruin your brush. This is what I felt anyway when I first started using or trying out the brush effect. So if you are a beginner, definitely try this. You've got a lot more control and the effect is really, really nice. And I'm going to use the two colours again just to show you exactly how it can be used and how you can apply this to your florals or landscapes or trees or whatever it is that you're painting. I'm not sure about portraits. I don't know if the dry effect would look good on a portrait. I'm not sure. But for flowers, botanicals, abstract art, I think this is really beautiful. So just to explain how the dry brush works, you load a brush with paint, and then as you saw me earlier, you actually remove most of the moisture on a paper towel, or you can dab it on a cloth, and then you drag your brush very lightly across some textured paper. The effect you get is like this, broken, scratchy marks that resembles petal veins or worn edges, just really delicate details. The thing to remember though as well, this works best on cold pressed paper or rough paper. You might not get a great effect on smooth hot pressed paper. In all honesty, I haven't used the dry brush effect that often, and I'm actually really liking how this is looking. And I think for a future flower, I will definitely focus a lot more on just the dry brush effect. I'm really liking it. I think it's probably going to take a longer time to maybe create a flower, but look at the effects. I think it's really gorgeous. Okay, so I let all of that dry. I can feel the salt on the paper. I'm just going to take some of that off. I've literally got this salt absolutely everywhere. I will have to vacuum that up in a second. I tried wiping a bit of it off. I think it does look really nice. Let's just take off this bubble wrap. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's a lot more subtle. And then this one, okay, it's quite interesting. It's not too bad. I really like that middle one. Let's take the tissue bit off. Okay, I think the dry brush looks so nice compared to all of them. So the salt has come up really nice. Let me get you a bit of a close-up on that one. I really like the effect of that salt actually, and the subtle bubble wrap on that third petal, but that dry brush I think is my favourite. I did spend some time going back into each flower and just finishing them off properly and just adding a bit of texture with the brush, which is my normal painting style, and this is what I would normally do. So painting on the petals with the salt I think has come out really nice as well. I will definitely attempt to use the salt again, and I will do my best not to get that everywhere. I added some stems and a bit more detail to each of the flowers as well, and I think overall they have come up really nice. The sponge effect, I probably won't do that again, or maybe I'll try it one more time off screen just to see if that does work. I actually thought the sponge effect would have been a bit easier, but that's not quite worked the way I thought it was going to work. So it's definitely been an interesting experiment. The tissue, again, I don't know if I just did something wrong, but I don't feel like it's made too much of an effect, apart from the lifting technique, and that is probably going to be good for clouds. Overall, I think the salt, the subtle one of the bubble wrap, and the dry brush effect were probably my favourite, but definitely the dry brush effect. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think, and if you've tried this before yourself. And I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to watch the blending one, and I'll have a brush technique coming up next so you can brush up on your skills. See what I did there? Okay, see you later. Bye.